As far as this particular panel is concerned, we've been given the details of the importance of the Gulf of Guinea in terms of the rich natural resources in the area, and again, as a strategic shipping route. So we're not going to dwell on that much. So our focus is going to be about the people and their resilience, if any, in making sure that the institutions they represented work correctly. To that extent, we are going to address the Nexus, because one of the issues we have in the Nexus is human trafficking. We have drug trafficking, and at the same time, we have arms trafficking. And they're going to speak to these issues in relation to the value of the Gulf of Guinea in terms of the proliferation and existence of organized crime in those areas. I think it is time for us to retire security and national security, because what we know as security and national security was built in the image of the military, intelligence, and law enforcement. In the last almost 25 years, we're no longer under the military. We are under civil rule. So it is time for us to begin the construction of security and what is national security from the point of view of civil rule and civil rule governance framework. And to that extent, whatever is security would absolutely be different from what we know, because almost all of us in this hall here view security, national security, from the point of view of the name and work of the military, intelligence, and law enforcement. And if you go by the last 24 years, this particular perspective has outlived its usefulness.
As we all know, that the Gulf of Guinea is one of the most viable and sensitive Gulf in the international community. And because of the activities that are taking place in that Gulf, make it so attractive to both international and domestic partners. And it is situated in the West Africa. It's border with Nigeria, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Gabon, to mention but a few. However, because of the strategic position of the Gulf, it has some geographical and geopolitical significance. Talking about the geographical significance, if you look at the strategic location of the Gulf, because it's located within the Atlantic Ocean, which leading to the sea, and it's a trade route that can lead from Africa, Europe, to even America. So that is to tell you how strategic the Gulf is. And when we talk of the rich natural resources, the Gulf is blessed. And that is why it's of concern to the international community. It has enough oil, natural resources, minerals, and varieties of fishes. It has marine ecosystem. This marine ecosystem feeds millions of people living around the coast. The fish can also be used for the international trading. So that is one of the sensitivity of the Gulf, using the geographical. While the political, virtually 5% of oil reserve of the world is domiciled within the Gulf. So you see how sensitive the Gulf is in terms of energy to the global community and the stability of the world. It is also a maritime trade in the sense that most of the trade activities move around the Gulf. Maybe items moving from Africa to Europe to America, they find it very easy using the Gulf.
We need communities. Communities are important source of intelligence or important source of information. That too is not available. But again, when we talk about rebuilding institution, there's also a problem within the NDLEA itself that nobody is talking about. We know for a fact that there is collaboration between officials within these agencies and those who peddle, smuggle drug all around us. I think it's one factor that we must speak to when we're talking about trying to rebuild in resilient institution, because it's about persons first and foremost. Just like we demystified this excessive focus on structures amongst the political party, the same reference to institution brings back this memory of structure. When you talk about structure, what exactly are you talking about? You're talking about individuals. When you talk about institution, what are you talking about? You're talking about individuals. What is wrong with our individuals that are manning these agencies that will make these agencies not to be able to work?
As a result of the potentiality of the Gulf is attractive to the criminals, and so many criminal activities are taking place in the Gulf, making it very difficult for the law enforcement agencies because of the creeks and the dynamism of the Gulf. Very difficult, so it creates a lot of security challenges in that area. This is a map showing the Gulf. These are the resources available in the Gulf. You see the fishing, you see the maritime, the oil and gas platform, the mining activities, and other vital resources.
Threat in the Gulf of Guinea. It is obvious that there's a threat. From my perspective as a trend risk manager, once you know there is a threat, you begin to focus on mitigation so that you are not vulnerable. Now, we agree that there is threats in the Gulf of Guinea, whether it is human trafficking, whether you want to look at drug, whether you want to look at money laundering, howsoever. So how are we ready from the institutional perspective? That's the critical thing.
The Gulf is characterized by so many threats. We have the issue of crude oil theft, the illegal oil bunkering, pipeline vandalism, the piracy and sea robbery, proliferation of arms, cyber threats, that is attack on the ship networks, the communication and the navigational systems, the illegal and unregulated fishing, smuggling, drug trafficking, and human trafficking. When we talk of human trafficking, it is a violation. It is a complete fundamental violation of human rights, and it involves recruiting, transportation, transfer, harboring of individual by means of threat, coercion, deceit for the purpose of exploitation. And this is happening in the Gulf of Guinea. The law enforcement, especially the first respondent, they will agree with me, day in, day out, we see all these activities taking place in the blue water. In the same vein, the drugs trafficking is taking place in the Gulf, because if you trace the history of the cabal, the mafias, some of them are using this Gulf of Guinea in shipping their drugs, mostly the cocaine, the canister, the heroins, and others, coming to Africa. And those, they will sell it and at the same time empower the people that are creating violence in Africa, especially the youth. So by that, they destabilize the region, and it causes also social implication.
What drug does, what drug trafficking is, as it relates to Gulf of Guinea and Nigerian security. And the seaport, as we all know, carries the largest forms of cargoes into the country and out of the country. What one vessel can take, I think about 20 airplanes cannot pick them out of this country or bring them in. And that is why the seaport should be very, very key to the security of any country. What you can get in one container, a 40-footer container, I don't think 2 aircrafts may be able to bring that sometimes for you into the country. And that is why when drugs seizures are made at the seaport, you hear of terminologies as this is the largest in the history of this country, this is the largest in the history of West Africa. The drug you're talking about is was in a very large quantity, and we thumbs up for your organization for giving us promptly that information. But like I told you, what are the dangers involved when things come in through that axis? What are the security we have at the high sea there or within the Gulf to police such a reoccurrence? or to monitor the occurrence, and it happens every day. We've discovered that the agency that is supposed to be responsible for monitoring that waters, that Gulf, along with other security agencies, are not often carried along. He just told us that he informed the Navy. Perhaps the mindset is that the agency is not even there, who's supposed to be. So let me tell the Navy, who has the logistics, who are on the sea, who are there to do it. And that is where we come to the second problem. The joint operation we're talking about at the ports. We said there should be joint operation so that there will be joint cooperation among the security agencies. But where's the willpower by the federal government itself that set up the security agencies to equally equip them to do the job? NDLA, which is supposed to be on the high sea there along other security agencies, I can tell you today we don't even have up to 5 good boats all over the country to pursue criminals, to pursue pirates. And these are the people that collect these drugs from the vessels and take to the land. NDLA has no equipment to go to that high sea. And since the process, we must address the solutions.
Armed trafficking is another challenge the Gulf is confronting. We cannot take away the piracy in the Gulf. Is it the terrorism in the Sahel? Is it the banditry, particularly in Nigeria? All these are organized by criminal groups and for the purpose of achieving their selfish interests. Maritime piracy and kidnapping. Maritime piracy is one of the most complicated and delicate challenges affecting the Gulf of Guinea, because as the Gulf is so viable with abundant natural resources, so many trade activities, the pirates feel it is a good location where they can achieve their selfish interests by continue to attack innocent vessels and seafarers. And some of them, when they attack them, kidnap them, they will collect ransom. This is a big challenge, and I think is seriously affecting the Gulf. Even though Nigeria, to some extent, somewhere in 2021, have taken a bold step to see how they can reduce this piracy to a BRS minimum.
Anything that has to do with the Gulf of Guinea or with municipal law, Nigeria must be a signatory, and it is being controlled by international law and the law of the sea. Nigeria is also a signatory to many conventions and treaties. And so anything that happens in the Gulf of Guinea, it has to be within the ambit of international law. Nigeria does not have absolute control. But since Nigeria is a signatory to these conventions and treaties, Nigeria is also bound to obey all the provisions of these treaties. And that is encapsulated under Section 9 to 12 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. But when you now want to talk of the efficacy of these laws, we have the laws, like the Nigeria Drug Law Enforcement Agency Act. We have that of trafficking, anti-terrorism, money laundering, and the laws are there. But the problem, ladies and gentlemen, is the enforcement of these laws. And it all depends, as we have been saying this morning, individual. We need to comply. And that there is need be for what I describe as moral rearmament. We need that. We need to calm down in order to ensure that we enforce morals within us. Without that, we will not be able to get to anywhere. And again, leadership, which is L in gospel. What is the nature of leadership? Leadership in the family, leadership in the society, leadership in every organization, or of course, leadership in the country. So before we be able to build very resilient institutions, we must have good leadership. You can perform anything optimally, even though you are not a leader in that organization. So it behoves on all of us for us to have cooperation, for there to be synergy in order for us to achieve all our goals, all our objectives.
Effort to curb the piracy and other maritime crime in the Gulf of Guinea, there are so many efforts put in place, ranging from the international community, the regional efforts, the national efforts, and our international partners. Let me start, because there is United Nations Convention for Law of Sea. It is a fact that there are some countries, even within the Gulf, that they don't have a strong legislation that can address issue of maritime crime. So they only leverage on the United Nations Convention for Law of the Sea in order to address some of these challenges. In the same vein, within the region, with the initiative of the Economic Community of West Africa and the Economic Community of Central Africa, who came together to form the Yaoundé architecture. That architecture goes a long way to assist us within the region, especially countries that have no legislation dealing with piracy and other maritime-related cases. So they leverage on the Yaoundé architecture in terms of policing of the Gulf, because there are some countries that they don't even have the resources to police the Gulf. So they depend on Nigeria. So Nigeria, we have so many agencies, and some of these agencies, duplication of responsibility. And to avoid rivalry between the agencies, with the initiative of the UNODC and other maritime stakeholders, there is what we call harmonization of standard operating procedure. This harmonization, HSOP, is basically dealing with maritime issues, so that from the point of arrest to investigation to prosecution, every agency knows his roles. There is no need, maybe after the arrest, this one will say, no, if it is drugs-related matter, the NDLE, economic matter, EFCC, document matter, immigration, financial issue, NFIU. So the standard operating procedure highlighted all the responsibility, and it was done in line with the acts that establish all these agencies. So with that standard operating procedure, honestly, it have gone a long way in bringing all the maritime stakeholders, particularly in Nigeria, together to address most of these maritime security threats.
The communities within the Gulf area, much as we say we can do it as security agencies, the communities should be involved. The communities know about these pirates. They know much more about the criminals. The local fishermen you see on this high sea, they are very much aware of the criminals within their communities. So security agencies must involve these communities in order for us to achieve success. Again, coming back to the Office of National Security Advisor, we've been singing it all over. There should be an information fusion center. I wouldn't know, I think we had one. I don't know if it is still functioning. But this fusion center should collate the information from whatever sources we're able to get them and disseminate them appropriately. You were in Kano when you were called that there is drug coming into the country. If there is an information fusion center functioning very well in Nigeria, you don't need to bother the senior officer who has traveled for another assignment in Kano. That center will pass the information to the right organization and the job will be done.
There is also effort placed by the Nigerian government, especially the Nigerian Navy. They have surveillance equipment which they monitor, like their Falcon Eye. From the naval headquarters, they can monitor almost about 200 nautical miles, the activities happening in the blue water. They also have a backup in Lagos Armak. But NIMASA also of recent came up with Deep Blue project. This Deep Blue project, it covers both the water, the land, and the air. So with the deployment of these infrastructures, in fact, it has reduced the maritime activities to its BRS. There is no way you can eliminate completely crime, but you can reduce it to the BRS minimum. Coming to the international partners, such as Interpol, as we said earlier, it is where 195 member countries coming together to police the international community and to make a world a safer place. And the Interpol, we assist in sharing criminal intelligence, we assist in joint operation, we assist in capacity building, we assist in donating equipment to build and to strengthening the capacity of law enforcement to meet up with the international best practice. And there are so many projects executed by the Interpol. These projects tend to unite the law enforcement agency in the Gulf. In fact, just last week, I returned from Cotonou. We had a meeting, a training, joint training of both Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, all member countries in and this training is going almost, this is almost about 2 years. We know ourselves. If there is any information, instead of following the bureaucratic, you just call somebody, you share, and you see it will resolve issues. That was what assisted us to bring some of the challenges down. The UNODC also assisted in training, especially evidence collection, evidence handling, capacity building. They also assisted in building our law enforcement agencies. These are some of the collaboration with the international partners. There is also Operation Obangami. It is a yearly program where all the Gulf Navy from the Gulf come together to do a simulation exercise in order to strengthen their relationship. This goes a long way in uniting the Gulf.
Training and retraining, and he informed us of one of the problems we have in Nigeria, and I think I agree with him totally when it comes to that. Nigerians don't like reading. So when we talk about training in all of this institution, I wonder what exactly is the training we get there. You know, how do you get trained when you don't study? How do you get trained when you don't, even if you're not trained officially, when you don't equip yourself every other day as far as development in your specialized area is concerned? It's one of the huge problems we have. And it is tied to the lack of vision for Nigeria itself. Nigeria as a country has no vision. And because we don't have vision, whatever strategy we put in place will never work unless we have a vision. And we've had series of government, including the present government, talking about a vision. But it's a vision that is centered around a government with a lifespan. So as soon as the government goes, that vision is put aside. There is not a Nigerian-wide vision in which all of us are part and parcel of this vision. And as long as we don't have it, when we talk about strategy, we'll just be wasting our time.
Prior to 2021, it has been long that we have successful prosecution of maritime cases. This vessel was hijacked in Cote d'Ivoire. The name of the vessel is Halofin 11, and the suspect that boarded the vessel at 12. They left Nigeria through the land border to Cotonou to Ghana. From Ghana, they entered through flying boat to enter Cote d'Ivoire to hijack a mother vessel. They couldn't succeed, but they succeeded in arresting this Chinese fishing vessel. Last year in 2022, because I'm the point of contact on maritime in Interpol, I was called from Interpol headquarters that a vessel of interest left Brazil and is coming to Nigeria and suspected to be carrying cocaine. I called the Nigerian Navy. Please, vessel of interest with so-so inscription is coming to Nigeria and is suspected to be carrying some substance. The Navy intercepted that vessel. We quickly called NDLE, the custom, our Interpol staff, we boarded. It took us 2 days. We searched and we recovered almost about 32.9 kg of cocaine. And what do? Because of the harmonized standard operating procedure, we hand over the vessel to the NDLE for continuation of investigation and possible prosecution. These are some of the achievements.
Part of the challenge of institutions working together, part of the challenge of intergovernmental relations, whether it is state, federal, and local, or whether it is federal institutions, is the role of personality. A lot of the public sector organizations in Nigeria are hijacked by the cult of personality. An organization is big or is said to be doing very well, measured by the presence of the leadership in the media, on television, on cover pages of our newspapers. So we need to begin to work to see how we can connect the silos so that information, data flows across. Probably a national database on crime, something where access is given and these institutions work together. But as it is today, there is a lot of institutions working alone. One of the things that is striking for me, I looked at the map of Nigeria in the night to see where there is light and where there is no light. Of course, there's not a lot of light across the country, But if you look at the Gulf of Guinea and you look at that part of the country in the night, there are a lot of parts that have light, but they're not on the national grid. And you wonder what is going on there. Who is living there? What activity is going on there? Are these self-help? Are these people providing themselves their own electricity? Why would you go that far, spend that much to provide yourself such illumination that can be seen from satellite in space if the activity going on there is not lucrative?
On that note, we want to thank you very much for your intervention. And we want to underscore the fact that, we should have the political will, we should have the moral will, actually, for us to be able to address the question of our contribution to the growth and underdevelopment of our institution. Because again, when we talk about the institution, we must not shy away from the fact that we are talking to ourselves, and we are the reason why things are not working. So whether it is in the Office of the National Security Advisor, whether it is in the NDLEA, NSCDC, in the academia, wherever we find ourselves, when we talk about institution, we are talking to ourselves. And the foundation of our faulty institution goes beyond where we find ourselves in this established institution. It goes back to our family, and it also goes back to the economic conditions of every one of us. So if we truly need to secure our people, we need to go beyond that particular narrow definition. I want to thank you all for your contribution to this panel. Thank you very much.